Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Factional Fight Plays Wurm Online. Although, I guess this isn't quite an episode, it's another special installment from my car. As I've mentioned before, I drive a lot in the day, and I've been trying to figure out when I could add little extra segments to our regular episodes. And I figured, turn on the camera and just talk away while I record. And there's a couple things that I want to talk about today because there was an update today regarding archaeology, and I'll touch a little bit about on that. I also saw an old thread that I had been following that got bumped again by a very interesting added a very interesting element to this thread. Now, this thread was on the topic of the economy of Wurm, the problems with the economy of Wurm. And so the bump gave a few suggestions on what can be done to help this, and it really got me thinking. These suggestions are smart. I got to give credit to the poster. His name is Quasiwud. I know Quasiwud from a long time ago. I don't know if he remembers me. But he was friends with a Nightshade, and if you've been following us, you'll know that Nightshade was a person who lived on our deed in Autumn Twilight. She then made a deed really close to our Autumn Twilight castle, and so Quasiwud came up with these two really incredible ideas that I think actually should be paid attention to. The first one was, he suggested that we make it so that scale, either Drake scale or Dragon scale or Drake armor, Drake leather, make it so that you can only improve those materials with the corresponding, or only improve those armors with the corresponding materials. So make it so that Dragon scale can only be imped with Dragon scale material, and make it so that Drake leather armor can only be improved with Drake leather. Now, I know what everybody's thinking, right? Like, that would be a huge nerf. That would be a huge nerf. And it would be. It would totally be a huge nerf. And being an owner of a couple Drake sets myself, and Feyran has a Drake set, like, it would definitely hurt us in terms of trying to keep our armor up high quality. But I was thinking, if you neglect that element and you think about it from the perspective of trying to spur the economy, what I like about this is that it will force those people who own the Drake sets, who you would imagine are already pretty well off in the game, it would force those people to have to purchase, materials on a somewhat regular basis. Now, what this will do is it'll drive up the value of those little pieces. Now to overcompensate, to compensate for this, what the devs can do is can then start increasing the drop rate of that material, because it's going to be used up more often for imping. And so you can balance out the value of this material by, adjusting the drop rates to account for the fact that these materials are going to be eaten up by being, used to improve. But at the same time, what it's going to do is it's going to generate motivation for people to buy things. Motivation, especially generate motivation on the part of those people who have a lot of silver in the game already. Those people who can afford a whole Drake set could also probably afford to buy the scrap materials in order to improve their armor. Okay, and that got me thinking, like, that's one sort of place where you can do this. But it got me thinking that in order to solve economy problems, and I'm not actually claiming that Wurm has too much of an issue with his economy, although there are, some things to be left to be desired. But it got me thinking that part of the solution to the economy, if you want to start motivating people to spend silver, right? Really, that's really all it takes. You should be targeting the people in the game who have the silver. in the first place. Give those people things in the game that they will want to buy, but aren't necessarily able to either get it themselves, or it would be too tedious of a task to get enough of what they want, right? So scale armor was one thing, in the Drake armor. What was the other thing? I went into this video prepared for it because I read it, but now I can't think of what the other one was. I think the other suggestion, what was the other suggestion? Something to do with in-game cost. Make it so that the cost for premium was it lowered using in-game currency? Yeah, I think it was lower the cost of buying premium with in-game currency. And I like this idea too. Let me see if I can get this straight, because I don't remember it exactly now. Is it that if you lower the cost of the premium with in-game currency of it, if you pay silver to the token in order to give you more premium, what this is going to do is it's going to cause a money sink, an extra money sink. Like, I mean, the money sink is there right now, but how many people pay in-game silver for their premium? And there might be some, but if you actually work out the math, it makes no sense to buy in-game premium, like premium with in-game silver, right? I think it's like 10 silver will give you 1 month, and they have another option that's 5 silver will give you half a month. Okay, well, let's do the basic math here. If I use euro, it will cost me 16 euro for 2 months, so that's 8 euro for 1 month. So with money, it would be 8 euro. Now, to buy 10 silver would cost me 16 euro from the shop. And then that 10 silver would give me 1 month of premium. So that's like, you're literally paying twice as much if you pay 10 silver at the token. Like literally, twice as much. You're paying, basically 16 euro for 1 month if you go with the token. Or you can go to the shop and pay 16 euro for 2 months. That makes sense to me. The problem is that, I guess it's not a problem, but the solution to, one part of the solution to the economy is to make it so that there's more money sinks, right? If you make more money sinks, then what that's going to do is it's going to cause a draining of the silver in the world, which would require people to, you know what? I had it when I read it. I'm just like, the line of thinking is there. If you drain the silver from the world, then what might happen is that it would cause people to buy more silver from the shop. Is that really the line of thinking? I wish I had read this again. You know what's going to happen is that I'm going to look it over again, and we're probably going to have this conversation again when I sit down with Feyran and play some Wurm and we talk about it again. But what I wanted to point out to you guys is that this thread got me really thinking. It was the first post on that thread that really felt like somebody constructively trying to come up with ideas to address the economy issue. And I think both of those ideas, at least when I was reading it the first time, it made me feel like both those ideas would at least do something to push the economy in the positive direction. And I promise I'll get back to it on the show. But yeah, go take a look at that thread and see for yourself. The other thing I wanted to chat about was this update that happened just today. I opened up the forums on my lunch today, and it said 7 hours ago a new update went in, and it was a whole revamp, or at least addition to Archaeology, which I really love this idea. I love what they've added. I wish it was there when we went on to Delhi and was doing archaeology and looking at our old deeds, because I would have loved to see how this system works. I was getting a little bit of, I did get a little bit of whispering. I caught a little bit of rumors here and there. A couple things Buddha was saying in the back channels, and a couple things around that was hinting to me that they were working on this archaeology to refine it a little bit. Now that it's been added into the game sort of as a surprise update, it is kind of exciting. So they've added a couple new statues, and I'm really excited to know what they are because it wasn't revealed in the update. So that's probably going to come soon. We're going to find out what those are. They did some reworking of the investigation, so to make it a little bit easier. So your skill check is going to be a little bit easier when you do an investigation, which is nice, which means you might see more better fragments. Because man, there's a ton of really crappy fragments going on when you're doing archaeology. And then the big thing, I think, is that they added what they're calling caches or cache items. I think this is supposed to give you like the idea of it's almost like a treasure trove or something like that. That's what a cache is. So you are doing archaeology, and if you do it in, I think it's right in the center of where the deed used to be. So right where the token was, I guess. I suppose. Right wherever the token was, if you do an archaeology investigate there, then you will get a cache. Now, it wasn't clear if this was like every single time you do an archaeology investigate there. Like, you know, it takes about 24 hours for it to refresh. It's on that polling system, so it's kind of like how foraging is. Like, you go to forage and it says that area is picked clean, and that's because it was picked clean, it was foraged like recently. But then over time it refreshes so you can forage there again. The same thing goes with archaeology and investigating. So you investigate in a spot and it picks it, you know, the fragment out, and then when you go the next time it'll say, you know, that area looks picked clean until it refreshes. So I'm not sure if you get a cache every single time that it gets refreshed and you go there, but by the sounds of it, that's how it works. And the cache is supposed to be like a big amount of fragments based on, you know, lots of factors such as how old the deed was, or you know, and then they added a little extra bonus, so when you do the caches you get a little bit extra of the rare fragments. So you're going to get a bunch of statue fragments maybe, and it'll all depend on your archaeology skill, I'm sure. So there'll be like a bunch of factors that contribute to this, but I think this is just great. So the other thing that they did in conjunction with this was they tried to solve the issue that people were having with the number of pages that fit into an archaeology journal. So one thing they did, that this is brilliant. This is a brilliant move. They made it so that once you uncover the cache, then the archaeology journal entry gets removed. It's almost like that journal, its full purpose was to get that cache. Okay, now they also added another feature to the journal entry that allows you with enough information. If you get enough information about the deed, then you get the option to you know, get the direction to the deed. So you right click the report and it says get direction. You click on that and it's going to point you directly to the center of the deed. So you use that mechanism to figure out where the center of the deed was. You use that location to investigate and get the cache, and then it removes the entry from the journal. Okay, so now it's like the entry from the journal is used specifically to find that cache, like that hidden buried treasure, and then in order to do that again, you will have to make a new journal entry, I think. I wonder if you are allowed to. Let me think about this. What if you figured out where the center of the deed is, and then you use your memory next time without the journal to go try to find the cache? Will you get the cache, or do you need to have the journal? I don't know. So that's a question that we'd have to figure out. But if you can then just from memory go back to that spot without the journal, then that would be nice, and get the cache. That would be cool. They also increased the amount of pages that can fit an archaeology journal. So that's kind of cool too. They made it so that it starts at a base of 22. So a one quality journal can hold 22 pages, and then I think you get one extra page for every quality. It's either that or it's whatever the quality is, that's how many pages that you can have. I think that's probably what it is. So if it's a 50 quality journal, you can have 50 pages in it. If it's a 22 quality journal, you have 22 pages in it. Anything less than 22 quality, the minimum is 22. That's how I read it. That's how it seemed like it was. So that's going to solve a lot of problems, I think, now then, with both of those mechanisms in play. I think it is viable now to have only one archaeology journal. Now, unless you want to keep some pages as a memento. So, for example, I like to keep the pages for the Autumn Twilight deed and the puzzle, the puzzles deed, just because I like that, to have that there just as a sort of memento of the deeds that I was on. Now, one thing, another added element to this that this is such a small thing, but it is so appreciated. They now added the ability to drag reports from one journal to another. So now I can create a journal that's specifically for my deeds. That's not filled with all these random deeds plus my deeds. I can just take my deeds journal entries and put them all into a journal, so I can have like one journal that's just my old deeds. Keep that as a memento. That's nice. Oh, and there was another thing that was added that really excited me, is that they added another they added another object, or another thing that you can pick up in those caches. You can pick up what they called relics of that deed. Again, I think that this is sort of like just a memento of that deed. You'll get an item that sort of, you can probably display it maybe. I'm not even sure. We didn't get any information about what these items look like, but they're gonna represent that deed. They might be called that deed or something related to that deed, and you can maybe display them. That's just great. Now with all this like placing items on items and using bookshelves to put decorative displays of things, I think this is just another amazing addition to the game. It makes me now have to want to go back to Delhi to all my old deeds again, so I can pick up all these relics, which I know I'm going to do anyway, because I got to get my archaeology skill up, and then go back so that I can get all these extra pieces of information anyway on my reports. So yeah, so I think this video here, I want it to be just to our patrons on Patreon, to give you the heads up about thoughts that are going on in my mind, and to give you guys an idea of what we might be talking about on the next episode. I do apologize about the economy stuff, and obviously I can't go check the post again to refresh my memory because I'm in the middle of driving. Last thing I wanted to talk about is I am not sure about... See, I recorded the last driving one. I recorded the last driving episode. And after that, people were saying, are you sure that you're allowed to do that? Is it legal to drive and record yourself? And then I got a lot of comments asking me to be, make sure you're safe. Make sure you're safe on the road while recording. I assure you, I am being 100% safe. I sort of would liken this to, let's say you were sitting next to somebody in the car and you were having a conversation with that person. In fact, I would say I'm less distracted now than I would be if I was having a conversation with somebody else, because I don't have to focus on what they're saying. All I'm focusing on is what I'm saying. So it's kind of like having a conversation with myself in the car, and that's how I feel. So if you've ever talked on the phone, on a speakerphone in a car, it's actually less distracting than that, because I don't have to focus on what they're saying. So I'm feel pretty safe in terms of like my focus on the driving, in terms of that sort of stuff. However, people saying these sorts of things to me got me thinking, and I'm thinking, I'm not sure about the legality of it. I know for a fact that it is legal to use your phone hands-free, right? And right now I'm hands-free. However, there is that moment right at the end where I have to touch the off button. I do have to reach over and touch the off button at the very end. I turn the on button when it's safe to do so. So the on button is okay. It's just the off button. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let it roll, and I'm going to cut the video later. So that way I don't have to touch the off button until it's safe to do so. And then later I'll upload the video and cut it so that, or I'll cut the video before I upload it. I'll cut the video so that all the stuff of me not doing anything is off. So that way I'm not really touching my phone. I'm completely hands-free doing this. And I really don't think that there's a law that says I can't record myself while driving. So I'm going to look into it a little bit more, and I'll give you guys updates about what I find, if I find anything, because I really don't want to be doing these if it is against the law. If there's a law that says you cannot record yourself while you are driving, then I will promptly stop. So I'm going to go research that. But until then, I'm feeling pretty confident that there isn't a law like this. And as well, I'm confident that I can maintain 100% focus, at least the same amount of focus that I would if I was talking over the phone with somebody while driving. So yeah, that's my feeling about that. And so hopefully we'll see more of these in the future. And until then, bye for now.